Walcott, who can run away from them. Blind trying to buy him a bit of time. Ozil, 2!
This is Barkley, away from Otamendi. He's got two runners to his left and one to his right. Barkley wants to go alone, and why not?
Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero!
Hello, welcome back to the Football Hipsters English Breakfast podcast. Yes, we're back again. It's the new season. It's season 16-17. So I think we should be probably calling it the Football Hipsters 16-17 English Breakfast from now on. The season is well underway. We've had a weekend of Premier League action as well as the Championship and the EFL continuing. So as usual, I've got my my partner in crime with me. I've got for technically the third time this season, although in theory the first time this season, I've got Ross with me. So good evening to you, Ross.
Good evening.
We are, of course, recording on a Monday night, Monday the 15th of August. Normally, these podcasts will be released on a Sunday, but we thought we'd wait and see what Chelsea and West Ham served up to bring you this first one of the season, because we've got quite a lot to get through. So, without further ado, Ross, let's get underway. So, we had the first weekend of the Premier League season. Shall we start with our champions, Leicester City, who faced Hull City in the opening game, indeed, of the new season, and we got a bit of a shock, didn't we? A win for Hull City. What did you make of it?
Well, I think what it taught us was that Hull aren't ready for the season, but they were ready for Leicester. It's what happens when Fulham did the same thing with Newcastle. The squad wasn't good enough for the season coming up, but they could still make do with what they've got. The performance from Hull was very good. It was very solid. It was very dogged. They had Jake Livermore in the heart of the defence because they've got so few fit players. I think they did brilliantly in shielding that back four, made sure that no one could really pick on him. The chances that did come Leicester's way, they just didn't take. I don't know what was wrong with Jamie Vardy, but he looked more like the player that played at Fleetwood than at Leicester last season. I think the thing with Leicester is that was a kind of performance that they never had last season because the luck dried up. People were getting in the way of the shots. The shots were just... They always either found, the gloves of the goalkeeper or the leg of a stray defender. It just didn't seem to go for them, and it's just something that they never had to deal with last season. So I think that's a much more typical Leicester performance. They will only get better, of course they will. All teams will only get better, but I think it was a case of one of those results that we were expecting all through the end of last season, which just didn't seem to come. The only other thing I can really say about the game was that the performance that Hull put in was absolutely fantastic considering the amount of players they've got and the state the club's in at the moment, but also the kind of performance that I expect to see from Burnley more often than not this season, and why I tipped Burnley to stay up, because it was a very dogged, resilient Championship team display against a team that really should have blown them out of the water.
Yeah, well summed up. And just touching on Leicester briefly, obviously all the journalists, a lot of the media immediately jumped onto the sort of the Leicester story and said, right, this is proof that it's going to be a lot tougher season, all the cliches that go with it. I just want to focus on one of their players. Riyad Mahrez obviously scored a penalty, didn't have the best of days. In your opinion, did he look like a player who may be considering his future, or do you think it's just one of those early season rusty performances?
He struck me as a player that was thinking about it. I don't know if he actively wants out, but the issue is, as I'm currently experiencing with Jose Font, is that when a story goes around, it can just turn a player's head. It doesn't mean that they want to leave, it doesn't mean that they're going to, but sometimes it can just affect concentration. So it may have played a part. I can't be 100% sure. Obviously, the Leicester performance as a whole wasn't brilliant, so maybe it was a case of the collective falling prey to a bit of nerves, and then having a knock-on effect on Mahrez. But certainly he was off colour. If he does stay at Leicester, they'll be hoping that by the end of the month at least he'll be back to normal.
They're only human at the end of the day, aren't they? It's certainly normal to have your head turned slightly if you hear about a club being interested in you. So we'll watch that one with interest. And fair play, as you say, to Hull City, I thought were dogged, determined, and struck me as a team that were almost buoyed by the sort of the siege mentality of it. Almost, it's just like nothing left to lose, go for it. And credit Mike Phelan as well, who still has a lot to prove, but maybe he'll end up. You've got a funny feeling he might end up as a caretaker manager. You know what I mean? Like one of those
I have to say that if they don't get a takeover by the end of the month, he'll be there for the rest of the season. Because I just don't think there's another choice at the moment for Hull, nor is there going to be anyone that's going to be good enough that's going to want to take on that club as it is. So, yeah, it was impressive for Phelan. It's continuation of Steve Bruce's good work.
Yeah. Could end up going a bit Terry Connor, that one. Let's hope not for Hull fans. Let's move on then. You did mention there's a couple of games we are going to scoot through this season, so apologies to some fans of some clubs, but like Match of the Day, we've only got a limited amount of time, so we'll skip through Crystal Palace and West Brom. West Brom coming through with a 1-0 victory, Salomon Rondon getting the winner there. Not a lot else to be said, other than Yannick Bolassi's transfer, which I believe is official today.
Yes, it went through. Yep.
So that's been done. And Alan Pardew saying that he can now buy 2 strikers. Just quickly, do you think that changes Palace's outlook this season? Because I tipped them to go down.
Depends on who they bring in, really, doesn't it? Bolassi is a miss. They did suffer hugely without him last season. To not have him permanently now is going to be tough. So they're going to need to find a replacement for him, or they're going to need to find a replacement for whoever they're going to move out into his position. And then, of course, they're going to need this elusive striker. They went in for Batshuayi. They didn't get him. There's talk of Benteke. They haven't got him yet. So it's tricky, but you get the feeling that Palace are looking a little bit too high at the moment.
Yes, I think I completely agree with you on that one. We'll also just sort of briefly cover Burnley and Swansea, because again, not a lot happened here, but maybe a word for Burnley quickly, because it's very early in the season, of course. We can't judge anything after one game. But do you think there'll be some regrets on their behalf? You know, they must have looked at Swansea and thought, home tie to start the season, good to get off on the right standing. They looked a bit punchless up front, even with Andre Gray, who's been tipped to have quite a good season. So is there a concern there?
There is. The Stephen Defoe deal is now across the line. That was made official today. I think that replaces the Joey Barton hole that I've been talking about, and it's hopefully a sign that they'll be a bit more solid at the back. I think they were unlucky to lose to Swansea. They had a very good chance in the second half. That's I can't think of the name of the goalkeeper off the top of it. Fabianski, isn't it, that's in goal for Swansea?
Yes.
Pulled off an absolutely incredible save in the second half. So it's a shame for Burnley. They will have to address the issues up front, but it is only one game. It was the first game of the season. It's for some of these players, it's the first time in the Premier League, Andre Gray especially. I still think they'll be alright. I think they've got enough about them. Like I say, the performance the Hull put in is, I think, the kind of performance you'll see from Burnley more often than not this season. And it will win them more points than it won't. So I'm not too concerned by this result, but it's certainly one that they may look back on at the end of the season, if they are to go down, and think, man, we should have really taken something from that.
I like Andre Gray. I must admit, it's something I've seen. Him and Damari Gray, the two Greys, I quite like the look of both of those. We shall see how they get on throughout the season, but definitely goals will be needed for Burnley. That Defoe signing as a European football hipster myself, I can say I'm excited by that. I think that's a very decent signing for a player that was linked with some top European clubs. Porto, I think, were in the mix as well. So that's a very good signing, that. But we shall see. Let's have a look at Middlesbrough and Stoke next, because Middlesbrough back in the big time, having been away for a while. They were a team you saw a lot of in the Championship last season. And also, both of us, we kind of said we're not sure about this whole project they've got going on with these sort of superstars, quote unquote. What did you make of the performance?
As a whole, I thought it was relatively good for a first day in the Premier League. Obviously, Alvaro Negredo getting a goal on his debut does make my points last time out about his suitability for the formation a little bit foolish. But at the same time, I said in the same breath that he doesn't need to be doing the running, because the players around him will be doing the running, and that's how he got his goal. It's a good start. It's a very promising start. I think any Middlesbrough fan would have snapped your hand off for a point against a team like Stoke that are normally quite difficult to break down. So they could have got more out of it, but equally they could have got less out of it. It's always a tough fixture against Stoke, so they'll probably be very happy with that as a starting point. I think there is a lot of talent in it, and the performance I saw from the front four in that game was impressive, and it did quell some of my doubts. But I still have question marks early doors, I'm afraid.
And I still have question marks over that kit. It looked hideous on the pitch. That big white band.
Could do it a little higher, couldn't it?
Yeah, it just looks wrong. It looks like it's been sort of painted on by mistake. Not a fan. But anyway, enough about my OCD. With Stoke, did you see? I don't know if you saw this story. I think it's Mark Wilson, the defender. Did you see his quotes today about Stoke's defending or lack thereof coaching?
No, I'm afraid I must have missed that.
Well, I believe he's been sold. I will actually just double check that very
To
quickly.
Bournemouth
But
for $2 million.
there you go. So yes, basically he came out publicly and stated that I believe the quote went something along the lines of, "Well, I would have learnt something at Stoke defensive wise if we ever got coached it." So they're very thinly veiled dig at Mark Hughes, suggesting that they don't do any defensive coaching at Stoke, which is kind of ironic when you think about the previous days, isn't it? But,
They wanted to change an ethos, didn't they?
yeah, absolutely. It's no surprise that he's been sold very quickly after those comments. But interesting one. Are they a side that you think will have enough Stoke? I mean, again, there's too many good players for them to be in any trouble surely this season, do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be in any trouble. I still think they'll be a nice, comfortable mid-table side for a few more years. They don't worry me. They also don't scare me, though. That's the other side of Stoke. I don't look at that team and think, oh, we need to try and find a way to handle that one. So they're a nice team. I like Stoke, but I also wouldn't expect too many problems from playing against Stoke these days.
No. Another team that need a proper centre forward if they are to go to another level, and not sure they're going to be able to attract one, but we shall see. Let's have a Southampton corner, shall we? Let's give you an opportunity to chat about your boys. Claude Puel's first day in the job, as indeed was Valtamat Sari of Watford, the former Inter coach, and stalemate ended 1-1. As you as a Saints fan, are you happy with that? Because Watford started the game and dominated the game for long periods to begin with.
You won't hear any other Saints fans saying it, I don't think, but I'm happy with the point. The thing is, with a new system like Puel's play, which is counter-attacking football, utilising a very quick front three, you need to be patient, you need to build up, you need to make sure the passes are picked out properly, and the main thing is holding the midfield and being able to create. The one thing that Watford stopped us doing was creating, because they played 5 in midfield. So other Saints fans are very critical of the opening game. They're suggesting that it was very worrying. We need a striker, we need this, we need that. For me, it has the feel more so of a team that was set up brilliantly to stop us playing. And it's something that not a lot of fans of any club want to redo, but congratulating your opponents is normally frowned upon. But I like to do it where I can, because it's, as football fans, you kind of get drawn into thinking that it's, your team's going to win every week, your team is the only one that wants it, your team's the only one with the quality to win the game. But, it's always two sides on the field, and the Watford fans were thinking the exact same before kick-off. So the Watford setup was brilliant. Amrabat and Holebas were fantastic out wide for Watford. Amrabat in particular was a real pain for Redmond. He really couldn't get in the game. Tadic was left to do it all by himself at times, which is I think personally is credit to Watford rather than a hindrance on Long or Redmond or anyone around him. Ward-Prowse barely got in the game. Davis didn't see much of. Højbjerg came on in the second half, looked very good. He changed things up a bit. So for me, it was a case of Watford, being a team that we're going to have trouble breaking down in the first place. Very well drilled, looked very impressive, and the goal that Capoue scored, you're not going to stop because he's hit it just so hard. You can't say the Southampton goal wasn't coming. It was just continuous pressure, especially in the second half. But there's a lot of things to be worked on for us. There's a lot of fans criticising the formation and the diamond, which some people have said is outdated for the Premier League and whatever else. But I think it's a case of first game jitters, or not being familiar enough with the formation, etc. So things to work on for us. I'm not too concerned by it, but full credit to Watford, who I thought were brilliant on the day.
Yeah, very sporting of you. And just briefly, I'll ask you this every week until it shuts. Any business for you to be done for Saints still, transfer-wise?
We suspect there's a number 10 to come in at some point. If Jose Font is to go, which I really do not expect, then a defender will have to be brought in, because Maya Yoshida is not a Premier League centre-back. Had another mistake on the weekend, which always terrifies me. He's just not a good player to watch. we're looking for a number 10, is my understanding, because we need a replacement for Sadio Mane. Wanyama will be replaced last year with Romeu. It's Højbjerg was brought in really to replace Schneiderlin. We only just got that one right by the sound of it. So the only one we really need to look at is Mane, because Pella was never going to fit into Puel's system anyway, and Redmond's come in to fill that void now. So the links are Buffon of Lille, I believe, and Rafa Silva of Braga. But it's who knows, with Southampton, they like to keep their transfer business under wraps. So only out that is concerning at the moment is this possible Font rumour, but I don't believe it early doors. So.
No, I couldn't tell you both. Rafa Silva and Rafa Silva in particular is a very good little player, and Braga I think would quite happily sell if the price was right. Buffal is a harder deal. I believe he's injured again at the moment, but Claude Puel is a massive fan of his. He tried to get him for Nice, and they couldn't afford the budget. And there was quite a lot of talk in France that he will go back, possibly late in the window, to try and nab him from Lille. So watch this space. But very good addition.
The stories I hear about Buffon are that he's a good player that Southampton think very highly of. My understanding is the issue is that he himself, the player, isn't also convinced on moving to England at this point in his career. But Southampton are quietly confident something can be done, because he relies quite heavily on his family for direction, is my understanding of it. And his family are very supportive of the move to Southampton, because they can see it's very good for the future. So if they can convince the family, they can convince Buffon, who can then talk to Lille, and apparently Southampton are willing to pay the money for him. But it's all speculation at this point. So interesting one to watch. The Rafa Silva one, we've been linked with him for 2-3 years now, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. The last price I saw quoted was 8.5 million, which I'd be more than happy with. He sounds like a very good player for that price. So interesting one. But again, we've been linked with all kinds of players this window: Kostic and Dennis Prayat and all kinds of players. So interesting to see what we do. But I'd expect a number 10 to come through the door before we end the window.
Yeah, and close to the coast, if anyone wants to pop back to France, of course. So good times. Okay, and just quickly on Watford, Troy Deeney, the man is massive, massively massive. He's huge, scary.
He's not going to win any beauty pageants anytime soon, but I wouldn't say that to his face. So
he's not, but that's effective, isn't he? Jesus, he just the way he holds that ball up, amazingly impressive. But
I believe today they've also been linked with a Juventus forward. Pereira, I believe it is,
yes.
For a good amount of money as well, I hear. So if they can get that one done, that sounds like an impressive piece of business for Watford.
Yes, especially with the links between Mazzarri and the Italian game. I think that'd be a very good little signing if they could get it off the line. I think Juventus think quite highly of him, so that'd be a surprising one, but you never know. We shall keep tabs on that one. We might even do some sort of transfer podcast nearer the time, so stay tuned for that crazy event. Anyway, moving on to your favourite team, Everton. What did you make of the Koeman era at Everton, and more importantly, what did you make of Spurs? Because obviously I'm slightly biased in this one, but they looked jaded to me, even this early on in the season. That's got to be a worry, probably moving forward.
It is, but I think you've also got to factor in that most of those players were at the Euros this summer, which obviously doesn't help. As Arsenal found out with Aaron Ramsey's injury over the weekend, it can happen. These players do just get a bit battle worn. I'm not too concerned for Tottenham. They looked all right. I think the thing that I found funniest about this entire game was Wanyama. Everyone thinks that he's this amazing destroyer because you only get to see him twice a season, and I've watched him 38 games a season. His first thing that he did, the first notable thing he did for Tottenham was give away a free kick. So
I thought of you. I saw that. I really did.
It's one of those things, and Spurs fans will learn quite quickly that he can be brilliant in the position that we asked him to play, which was just get the ball back. But as soon as he lost Schneiderlin beside him, he fell away. He wasn't the same player. So that did make me laugh. Spurs as a whole, I don't worry for. I don't think they'll be in the same position they were last season, but I certainly don't think they'll be too far away from the Champions League places. They're too good a team for that, and they've got too good a manager for that. And there's still a few weeks left in the window, so they could yet add a bit more talent. Everton, I was not surprised, but a little wary of the 3-4-3 that Koeman decided to play, because I've seen him play 3 at the back at Southampton, and more often than not, it doesn't work for us. But did very well on the opening day for them. It gave Holgate a great chance to start in the back line. Stekelenburg made 2 saves in a game He hasn't done that for years, so that's probably the best you're going to get out of him. Aside from that, they looked quite impressive. Gay, I think, is going to be a very good player for them. Idrissa Gay in midfield. They've now got Yannick Bolasie over the line. Ashley Williams is still to come in yet, so it's building nicely. It isn't the Mata, Witzel, Schneiderlin link that they thought they were going to get, but still a very impressive team. And as much as I dislike Koeman these days, I can't begrudge. It's a good start, and it was a very good performance as well.
Yeah, I must admit, Idrissa Gay was heavily underutilised at Aston Villa. I thought he's a very, very good little player. So I'm totally with you on that. I think he'll be very, very decent for Everton moving forwards.
Should also say to any Everton fans listening that Deulofeu is going to be Ronald Koeman's golden boy, because A, he's going to fill the Mane role very well, and B, he's ex-Barcelona. So
yes, played him through the middle, did he, briefly, I think?
Yes,
false nine.
He played him through the middle because Lukaku was injured. But I fully expect him to start more often than not and try and play the Wanyama role that obviously that Mane played for us. But yeah, he's ex-Barcelona, so Koeman's going to be trawling all over him. So yeah, he's going to have a very good season under it, I'm sure.
Yeah, rumour has it Lukaku was out with a heavily bruised ego, which is a shame for him. Moving on to the next game before I get accused of being biased again. Let's talk about the final game of the Saturday fixture list, which was the Manchester City-Sunderland match. City running out at 2-1.
Did they run?
They ran. They ran quite a lot actually, and they won. And rumour has it that actually Manchester City won this game, not just Pep Guardiola. I have to be honest, I'm a little bit sick already of the media all over him, sort of slobbering kind of thing. I know he's a new manager, and obviously there'll be a lot of focus on him, but I did think it was a little bit much. But what did you make of the new look City with Gael Clichy and Alexander Kolarov forming a sort of a weird centre-back partnership / centre-midfield partnership at times? I
thought it was hideously boring myself. I know Man United got picked on a lot for it last season under Van Gaal, and it was warranted because Man United were poor to watch, but I don't see the appeal of that. If it's going to be that for the rest of the season, and if it's only going to get more pristine and slick than that, it's very dull to me. I know people pick on defensive football for being dull, but defensive football is sitting back saying, come and have a go, we'll break it up and then we'll counter-attack. That's defensive football. This was just possession football. This wasn't backwards or forwards. This wasn't begging for chances to be created against you. This was just left and right and waiting for the space to open up. And it won them the game a bit fortuitously with the own goal, admittedly. So maybe I can't complain too much, but I would be a little disappointed if I was a Man City fan hearing about how brilliant Pep Guardiola was going to be and then seeing it rolled along the halfway line for 40 minutes. But at the same time, like I say, it won them the game. I'm a fan of defensive football, which people call boring, so maybe I'm being hypocritical, but it's not really my style. But if it wins them the league, then who cares?
I must admit, I was with you. I did find it a bit dull, and excuse me. I'm really intrigued to find out where Manchester City's amazing, wonderful support has gone.
Please! If Pep Guardiola's football is genuinely boring, it's found its church at the Etihad, because they weren't there either.
They were on general sale, the tickets, I believe, for this game. First game of the season, new manager, best manager in the world, apparently can't fill the stadium. That's a shame. But hey-ho, if you are a Man City fan, let us know why. But it does seem like a bit of an odd set of circumstances there. As for Sunderland, I mean, we got what we expected, I guess, really. David Moyes settling in, a couple of debuts. I know he'll be gutted not to get out with a point because they did pretty well to get back in. But I suppose all we can say is the goals of Defoe are going to prove crucial if they are to stay up.
Yes, it's a very good finish as well. I know Pep said after the game that he finally understood the English game, and that I think his direct quote was, "You're never safe until the referee blows the whistle and says you can go home." Full credit to David Moyes Sunderland for giving him that game. It was very combative. They didn't get too overawed by it. They let them play the possession style, but they just said, "Hey, we're going to get our chances and we're going to take them." And Defoe took a very, very good chance. It's a shame that it ended the way it did with the McNair own goal, but. Yeah, from that, I still think they're a little way off being the well-rounded team that I could look at and say you're definitely staying up. But yeah, they didn't worry me too much. If that's apparently the best team in the world now, then I think they did pretty well against them.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Let's have a quick look at Sunday's games then. Not a lot to talk about really with Mourinho's first game in charge of Manchester United. A 3-1 victory. Comfortable, even though the first goal was a bit of an error for Bournemouth. I didn't really think they turned up a lot. So just the one thing two things I want to pick up from this game. Your thoughts on the Juan Mata situation, because I have a little theory on this, which I'll share when you've given your thoughts. And also, a question for you. Does Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Wayne Rooney continue to get in this side together, particularly when a certain P. Pogba is available for selection?
Ooh. I think Fellaini is more likely to be dropped than Pogba, but is that Pogba's best position? I don't know. I haven't seen him play consistently outside of the Euros. The Rooney Ibrahimovic thing, I don't think it looked too bad against Bournemouth. It's only going to get better over time, but it just depends if they could do it consistently enough. They could have a couple of games where they're absolutely brilliant together, and then the next week they're absolute trash. When you could play someone like Pogba there, or even Mata behind Ibrahimovic, and it would look a lot better. But you're not dropping Ibrahimovic, so it's a case of making it work around him. And I didn't think Rooney was that bad. He helped his case with a goal as well. So it's an interesting one to watch. I wouldn't expect it to change against Southampton on Friday, but it's a partnership they'll have to work on if they want to keep Rooney in that team. As for Mata, I am in the camp that Mourinho is, for whatever reason, he fell out with him at Chelsea. He didn't like him for whatever reason. He didn't fit into the style. There were better players available to him, whatever the decision was. At Man United, I think it's a different kettle of fish. I think Mata's one of the best players they've got there. I also think he's one of the best in his position in the world. So, I like Mata. I like Mourinho. I think the media hype has been a bit too much because of the Chelsea fallout. But times change, relationships change. I think Mata's safe there. I don't think he's in any danger of leaving unless he wants to go, unless he's got a problem with Mourinho. I think Jose's more than happy to keep him there and see if he can make him fit. But maybe that's my biases because I like Mata and I like Mourinho. But I didn't make too much of the whole substituting it, the Community Shield thing either. That's you could look at that and say it's a bit of a flimsy excuse because he was the smallest guy on the pitch, so he took you off. But at the same time, Mourinho's the kind of guy that would do that. He registered that the team is going to try lump long balls. You need more height in there, and Matt's the shortest guy in there, so sacrifices have to be made. But again, it might be my biases coming over there, but I don't read too much into what's happening there, and I'd be surprised if Matt did leave.
See, I think the opposite. So it's always good to share views. I have this theory that Mourinho is essentially going to keep Mata around until Henrik Mkhitaryan is fit and ready to go, and then bomb him out. And I just hope, for Juan Mata's point of view, that's within this transfer window, because it would be just like Mourinho for my liking to keep him around right past the window and then drop him, and poor old Juan will be upset every week. And I hope that doesn't happen because I like Juan Mata. Seems like a lovely guy. Yeah,
he is. He's a very nice guy. He's always writing his blog posts after the games, talking to the fans. He's one of the few footballers that genuinely cares about his interaction with the fans, which is one of the reasons I like him so much.
Agreed. Yeah. So,
on that point, if he does make Mata a martyr, that wouldn't shock me, because he does that at every club. He always makes someone a martyr. And I don't know why, but he just always does. I would just be surprised if Mata goes this window, because I think he's got a role to fill under Mourinho at United. But yeah, if he keeps him there for a season, just to kind of point at him in the corner with his dunce hat when the other players aren't playing properly, that wouldn't shock me, because Mourinho's done it before and he'll do it again. But yeah, it's one to watch.
I could give you a couple of reasons why Mourinho does it, but or why Mourinho is the way he is, but I'll keep those for another day. Drawing to a close, the weekend's action was Arsenal. So a 4-3 victory for Liverpool at the Emirates. At one point in this game, Liverpool were 4-1 up. You could be forgiven to think that this was a Southampton All-Star 11 against another Southampton All-Star 11 with the goal scorers. I just want to put the focus on Liverpool for a second. We'll come to Arsenal. We said it in the preview pod that we have this sort of idea that Klopp's going to do this, if you score 5, we'll score 6, kind of tactics and style and free flow, just all-out attack. do you think we're reading too much into this, that he did it on game one, or do you think we were actually pretty right about this?
I think we're right. we said it. I said it. No, it's ironic that it happened the first game, but I still don't see any way around it. You look at that team: Mane, Firmino, Coutinho, Lallana, Wijnaldum, all in the team. Henderson is the only recognised centre midfielder in that team. And then you've got the back four, and Klein and Moreno spend half the game in the opponent's half. So, no, it doesn't shock me at all. I still think he's going to have plenty of games like this. It's going to be great when they win it, but they're going to lose them on occasion as well. I think they could have very easily lost the game against Arsenal. If not for some of those absolutely stunning magic goals that get scored. Mane has never scored a goal like that for us. It's a one-off. He won't do that too many times this season. Coutinho will never hit a free kick as well as he hit that one. So, they were very, very close to losing that, and if Walcott scores the penalty, then the game changes there. So, if Arsenal managed to get a second goal in the first half, it would have changed the game completely, and I'm not sure if there would have been enough in that Liverpool side to come back from that. Because, like I say, you can't legislate for some of those goals. Coutinho scored that with his first free kick of the season. He won't score a better one than that all season. So, it's a tricky one, but no, I think that's atypical of Liverpool and be typical of Arsenal.
Credit where credit's due. We've got to give Liverpool a lot of credit for particularly that 20 minutes where they just turned the game completely on its head when I thought they were done, if I'm honest. But what about Arsenal? You can give us a non-biased view, of course, but the fans are not happy. I know that's really surprising information. Arsenal fans not being happy. Who'd have thought? But Booze greeted the final whistle. There was talks, or apparently there was some rumours that certain people had to be restrained from trying to get to the bench and to the manager. Atmosphere is proving to be potentially toxic again. Rumours of signings, but not a lot happening. Is this to be the season that the Arsenal's sort of grip on the top four finally goes, or do you put this down to, once again, start slow, we'll get better, everything will be all right?
I'd put it down to the latter. I think if you put this result in place of any of the two results you had against Liverpool last season, there wouldn't have been that much of a backlash. The issue is that, as I've been finding out this weekend with the Southampton fallout, is that the first game of the season, people assume that the result, the performance, is how it's going to be for the rest of the season. And this was not a typical game for Arsenal. This is Liverpool. They play this ridiculous gung-ho forward line, and they don't defend. You're not going to have 3-4s every weekend. You're actually going to be able to win those kinds of games 2-0 more often than not. So, no, I'm not worried for Arsenal. I'm not worried for their season. They will find a way to challenge for the top four. Whether they'll sneak in or not, I don't know. There's a lot of good teams in it this year. Personally, I would put them in there if I was going to predict my top four, but it's going to be a tougher season for them, I think. Could be the one that finally makes Arsene Wenger think that this is his time. I don't know. It just has that kind of air about it, considering all this changing in the Premier League and how much attacking talent is pouring in. But I'm not concerned by it. I think the fact that it's the first game of the season makes it feel so much more personal and so much more meaningful. But at the same time as well, you're not going to have Chambers and Holding in your back line every week. And I love Chambers, I love Holding, but they're not Premier League ready. They need more games than that. So you're going to get better defenders in. I still think there's going to be a couple of signings before the end of the window for Arsenal. So I'm not too worried. I understand the fans' frustration, but you do have to disarm it a little bit and understand that the first game of the season isn't always indicative of how your season's going to be.
Well said. And we lost to West Ham at the start of last season, and it was all doom and gloom. Finished second, so it wasn't all bad. I think a lot of the fans' frustration. I'm not blind to it. I do understand it. I just think that sometimes some of our fans may be a little bit spoiled and maybe sort of expect a bit too much. And something shiny and new is always the lure, but it doesn't always solve all the problems that are already there. But that's one that will run and run. And if you want my views, you can tune into a different podcast to get those on Arsenal if you so wish. We'll draw a line into the first weekend of the Premier League with tonight's game, which was Chelsea West Ham, a London derby. Antonio Conte getting his Chelsea career off to a winning start, just about, with a late winner from Diego Costa, who was largely pretty quiet, to be perfectly honest. Cesc Fabregas was on the bench for this one. Dimitri Payet was also on the bench for West Ham. What do you think, if anything, this tells us about Chelsea? Because I know you didn't see this game live. I had the misfortune to do so. It was very, very patchy, very stale. Sort of stale in not as in stale as in general term, but was like stale football. Kind of lots of sideways, lots of defensive, knocking it around for knocking it around's sake. Does this tell us anything, or does it just sort of say, well, Chelsea should be beating West Ham at home?
Well, Chelsea should be beating West Ham at home. But the thing is with the first game of the season is that you've seen this in every game you've watched this weekend, is there's misplaced passes, there's things going wrong, it's not so fluid, it'll only get better. And from what I heard of the Chelsea game, they were very solid. West Ham didn't cause them too many problems. I know Andre Ayew was injured very early on, so maybe that disrupted their flow. But yeah, it sounded like Chelsea were nice and resilient and understood their jobs, and they were well drilled. But obviously, it can only get better. They'll only get more familiar with the style, with the tactics. The passing will pick up a little bit more. So yeah, the game might have been a bit dour, but there were a couple of games like that over the weekend that were a bit dour. Saints Watford wasn't the most entertaining thing to watch. Neither was Burnley Swansea. So yeah, it's another one of those early season results. But I don't see a reason for any of these two teams to worry about the performances. The result certainly won't worry Chelsea, obviously, but don't think it would worry West Ham too much either. They understand it's a long season, and they still have Dimitri Payet to go back into the squad as well. So I wouldn't read too much into either of it, personally, from this game.
No, it was, as I say, it wasn't exactly a spectacle to go out of your way to see, but nevertheless a victory. And one thing I think Antonio Conte is going to bring to the Premier League is passion. He was very fiery, very jumpy aroundy, and the Liverpool-Chelsea game will be an interesting affair between the two managers, if nothing else. So,
the other thing to say about that game is Diego Costa getting booked for dissent.
Yes, who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? I mean, it couldn't happen to a nicer fella, could it, really? But yes, absolutely. And also Oscar defying the laws of gravity on several occasions. His legs seemed to go from under him on more than one occasion without very rarely any touch. So, interesting character, that
Something
chap.
called The Exorcist. He's being tripped up by some kind of ghost.
Yeah, honestly, it was like snipers at dawn. It was painful at times, but nevertheless, Chelsea come out of it with a win. Now, obviously, we're not going to tell you what the table is because, frankly, it's pointless. So we're not going to do that. But the first weekend, I think, as you say, was a very bitty affair. Didn't have a lot to stir the pulses racing. Really wasn't a lot going on, but we're a game in. We have Friday night football this season. Yeah, I know. And you're involved in it, Manchester United and Southampton at Old Trafford.
Yeah, it's a good job Manchester's only 5 minutes away, eh, Sky?
Yeah, nice and easy one for you guys to get to. Loving that. Yes, Friday night football. Are you a fan? I'm guessing not by that reaction.
No, I dislike it strongly. It benefits the Championship because the Championship gets so few games on TV, so I get the chance to watch an extra game. And Sky have now put it across Friday, Saturday and Sunday, so there's more Championship games on. Brilliant. But, the Premier League was already getting coverage on Saturday and Sunday and one on a Monday night. You didn't need the Friday night. And it's just such an awkward day to travel. It's especially this one. If you're going to make us do it, then make it Bournemouth, Southampton, or make it Newcastle, Sunderland. Make it an easy journey. Don't make it away to Manchester on a Friday night. It's just so disruptive, and it puts the money before the fans. Thankfully for Southampton, Virgin Media are our new shirt sponsors. They've subsidised travel to Manchester, so that's a great gesture. But there's going to be clubs that are going to get caught out by that. I'm not a fan of it personally.
No, nice touch that from Virgin Media. Nice touch that. The other weekend's games, then we've got Stoke, Manchester City. It's the lunchtime Saturday games. Swansea, Hull, Tottenham Hotspur, Crystal Palace, London Derby there. Watford, Chelsea in the London Derby. West Brom, Everton, Burnley, Liverpool, Leicester, Arsenal was the tea time game, and then Sunday, Sunderland, Middlesbrough. That's the derby up on Teesside, and West Ham, Bournemouth is the Sunday 4 p.m. game. I don't think we've got a Monday game. No, we haven't. So that's your lineup for the coming weekend in the Premier League, and of course we will be back on Sunday night this week to review the weekend's action. So do tune in for that. There, right, Ross. This is your opportunity now to tell us a little bit about what's going on in the EFL, which we are going to do on a weekly basis this season. It might be a bit shorter than the Premier League, but we still feel it more than deserves a bit of coverage. So anything that stood out for you in the three divisions of the EFL this weekend?
I will go from the bottom up because the Championship's also the one I know best. League Two, I can't remember any amazing stories I can remember seeing on Sky Sports this weekend. I think one of the biggest shocks, honestly, was Crewe and Pompey drawing 0-0, and that kind of sums up the way the weekend went. It wasn't the most exciting. There weren't too many shocks. There weren't too many surprises. But you would have expected Pompey to beat Crewe. They're a massive favourites to go up this year, so that was a bit of a disappointing result for them. But outside of that, it's a fairly average weekend in League Two for my liking. League One, again, it's another fairly average week, but we've still got to see how these teams will settle in. The noticeable stories from League One, in my opinion, the start that Charlton have got off to. They've now managed by Russell Slade. They've changed the transfer policy around a bit. It's not as bad as it was in previous years, but still haven't got a win in their opening 2 games. Been largely disappointing. Fans not happy with what they've seen early doors. So the Charlton season is one to watch. Personally, I think Russell Slade's going to be okay for Charlton. He'll stabilise them and he'll get them into the top 6. Whether it'll be a revelation if he can take them up, I doubt. But I still think he'll be okay. But that's a rough start for Charlton. The only other noticeable story from League One that I can think of is Milton Keynes Dons. They have a new record signing in Kieran Agard, who's, I believe, ex-Everton. He got 2 goals on his debut against Millwall. I think Millwall were 2-0 up in the first half, and he came back to pull them up 2-2. So that's a great start from Kieran Agard for the MK Dons. It's interesting League One this year with Charlton and Bolton in it as well, and Sheffield United. Some very good stories to be told there, but early doors it's a little bit dour. We're still waiting to see how the cards will fall. The Championship, I think, is, as always, I'm sure, but I think the Championship is fascinating early doors with some of the stories that's telling. We were talking in the preview pod about Blackburn Rovers, and we were wondering where they might finish. I think I put them mid to low table. I didn't expect them to get relegated, but from their opening, they are in serious trouble of relegation. They've already conceded 7 goals, a 4-0 and a 3-0. This time it was against Wigan this weekend. So rough start for Blackburn. Leeds still haven't won yet either. Leeds have conceded 5. They've only scored 1 goal. It's a very impressive goal from a very impressive player in Hadi Sacco, who's on loan from Sporting. But apparently, Chilino is already getting a bit of an itchy trigger finger. I'd be massively surprised if he sacked him inside 5 games. But then would I be? That's that kind of chairman. So that's an interesting story to keep an eye on. The biggest one is clearly Newcastle United, who have lost both of their opening games. I don't know if that's as much of a shock as I feel it should be or not, because we all knew that they were going to be big scalps in the Championship. Fulham were brilliant against Newcastle on the opening day, and Huddersfield got the 2-1 over them on the weekend. That was a very impressive game as well for them. So I still expect Newcastle to be up at the top, but that's a very dangerous start for them. They have to start correcting things quickly. Aston Villa finally got up and running. They were embarrassed by Luton in the Capital One Cup. Well, it's not the Capital One now, is it? It's the EFL Cup, I believe.
EFL Cup, yeah.
Yeah, strange name, but there you go. Yes, Aston Villa got knocked out by Luton in midweek. The chairman was tweeting about how some of those players didn't deserve to wear the shirt. Changes made. They put 3 past Rotherham. Good performance on the rebound. At the top end, I was sceptical when you said that Fulham would have a good season, and here they are, 4th already with 3 goals. Jukanovic said they weren't ready for the season, but they were ready for Newcastle, and they look ready enough early doors. Very impressive in their 2 opening games. If you haven't seen O'Doy's amazing bit of skill in the opening game, by the way, you could go on my timeline and find the retweet of it from Sky Sports. Amazing control with his back and then turns a player. It's very, very impressive. Queen's Park Rangers, also very impressive early doors, 2 wins there. Wolverhampton Wanderers are the ones I'm keeping my eye on. They managed to get a very good win over Reading. They've also signed someone today from Stade de Rennes. Prince someone. I can't think of his surname now.
Prince Oniange, maybe?
Yes, it is.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they signed him today. I don't know what the fee is, but there is a rumour going round that that Wolves are about to pay £20 million for someone from the Portuguese league. So they are clearly splashing the cash. They're ready for this promotion challenge. I was concerned about this whole 8 players in that they were talking about, but if they're going to be of high quality and they're willing to spend £20 million on a player, then who knows? There are other stories developing across the league. Reading already have kind of been impressive and then kind of not been. Nottingham Forest at the same time kind of been impressive and kind of not been. Very good going forward and very weak at the back. Cardiff are struggling, and Derby County haven't scored a goal yet. So lots of things to talk about early doors with all the predictions we were making last week. But like I say, still very, very early in this season.
Trust in me about Fulham. Trust in me. In fairness, it was a massive guess, I'm sticking by it. I'm sticking by it. I should really go back and write down our predictions because I forgot them already. But I'll have to excuse me. I'll have to go back and listen to those and be sure to mock myself when I'm wrong at the end of the season. But yeah, good start for Fulham. So good on them. Okay, any fixtures that stand out for you this weekend to keep an eye on for eagle-eyed or eagle-eared listeners?
Well, if you are listening to this on a Tuesday morning, you're in luck because there's Championship football Tuesday night and Wednesday night this weekend. This week. Aston Villa, Huddersfield should be a good game after they're both picked up some big wins. Sheffield Wednesday versus Burton, I would like to think will be a bit of a kicking for Burton. Sheffield Wednesday are currently engaged in a bit of a transfer saga with Fernando Forestieri, so I'm expecting them to try and take out some frustration on Burton, but again, I like Burton as a defensive unit, so that should be a very interesting game. If it's on TV, I doubt it will be because it's the Championship. Wigan Birmingham could be an interesting one. Leeds Fulham will be one to watch because of the start Leeds have made. Like I say, apparently he's already getting a bit of a twitchy trigger finger, so if Fulham turn up and do some damage to Leeds, then who knows. Wednesday night is the Newcastle game if you are interested in following them, and there's also what I think will be a very interesting game between Cardiff versus Blackburn on Wednesday, because like I say, neither of them have made the best starts. Both could be in a relegation fight, Blackburn especially, if they don't start turning things around quickly or taking advantage of the window that's still left to them. So there's always interesting fixtures in the Championship, but those are just some standouts from midweek.
Just very quickly, what is this Forestieri talk that's going on with Sheffield Wednesday?
So Forestieri has been linked with Derby County, and the idea of him going to Derby was considered absolutely ludicrous at the start. Suddenly, things seem to have changed. Apparently, Forestieri had refused to travel with Sheffield Wednesday in their last game, which I think was Brighton?
Norwich, wasn't it?
Norwich, yes, of course it was Norwich.
No.
Yes, apparently he refused to travel to the Norwich game. I don't know if I believe that just yet. The stories are a bit hazy from what I've read, but apparently he refused to travel. He's ready to try and push and move. Apparently there's another club interested in him. I think it's Newcastle. If they do come knocking, then can you say no? They're a big club. They're probably going to go up this year. It's a much higher chance of them going up than Sheffield Wednesday. So it's a tough one if they do come calling. But yes, apparently Forestieri is ready to move. But Sheffield Wednesday are doing what they can to keep him. So if he does go, it's going to turn a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans against him very quickly. But I'd be amazed to see him go to Derby. But Newcastle, that wouldn't surprise me as much.
Hope he doesn't, because quite like Sheffield Wednesday, and I think it'd be a shame if he moved on to a club of just for a sizable club. I think he potentially could get Sheffield Wednesday promoted, so there'd be a disappointment if that happens. Hopefully not, but we'll keep you across that if it happens. Right, before we go, Ross, we're going to bring back, by popular demand, from me anyway, we're going to bring back Ross's Boss and Ross's Dross. I feel like you need some kind of fanfare. I'll have to work on that. But
can we get Bobby Roode's theme song from NXT?
Glorious! Yes. I might have to work on that. That's quite a good idea. But in the absence of a theme tune, I'll just let you give some answers. So, who's going to be your Dross this week?
Well, I was struggling to think of one, because it's the opening weekend, everyone's a bit meh, really. And then it kind of hit me like a bolt of lightning that clearly it was Alberto Moreno of Liverpool, who is a liability at left back. I think Gary Neville on commentary said you may as well start 1-0 behind when you play Moreno at left back. So, yeah, he was awful again. It concerns me a little bit that he played so badly because Liverpool have been linked with Ryan Bertrand, but they've also been linked with Robertson from Hull. So if he is to be replaced because he was awful, then hopefully they go for that option. But yes, he is by far and away the worst player of the weekend for me.
I can't disagree with that. And who's your boss of the weekend?
Again, it's difficult because the opening weekend is a bit flat, so I had to go to the Championship for my boss of the weekend. There's early doors. There've been a lot of good young players that have impressed me. The one that I'm going to pick out this week is one that is apparently being scouted by Manchester United. It doesn't surprise me at all if it's true. That's Oliver Burke of Nottingham Forest. He is a big, tall lad, bulky for his age, very quick, very sharp, likes to just put his head down, run, trick past people. Very impressive in Nottingham Forest's game. They were the ones that played Brighton Hove Albion. They got absolutely thumped 3-0, but Oliver Burke was one of the standouts for Forest, and that result is not on him. So you will hear his name mentioned a lot in the future. I am absolutely sure of that. If you're a Manchester United fan and that link is around, it has my blessing.
There you go. That's scrabbled for my mute button there. I do apologise. That's an interesting choice, I think it's fair to say. So, as we've said previously on this podcast, we will be keeping the boss and the dross as a regular feature. So, if there's any requests, or you think somebody's had a particularly bad weekend, do send them in to Ross. I'm sure he'll happily consider your offers of Ross as of dross or bosses, I'm sure. So keep those coming in. We'll appreciate those. And of course, Ross, we've decided we're going to sort of keep the Championship in focus and the EFL in focus each week, and just give people a little update on how things are going. So we'll keep that up.
Yes, very important to make sure you're aware of the teams beneath us. I think there's a lot of good talent down there, and people will be scrabbling for information about transfers eventually. So yeah, I think it's important to keep an eye on the Championship. So more than happy to be covering that and the rest of the EFL for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. And if you do live in the UK, or indeed anywhere actually, do support your local teams. Your money through their turnstiles keeps teams alive. So definitely advise you to go and see some local football. And it can be fun occasionally. Even I've done it, so it can be fun. Right, okay, I think that'll do us for tonight, Ross. That's our first look back at the season so far, or the first games of the season so far anyway. As you say, there is a full Championship midweek programme, or full Football League programme I should say, so we'll be across that briefly on Sunday if there's any standout issues, and we'll be back on Sunday with our usual slot. We might even see if we can drag Danny in, perhaps.
Hey.
See if we can drag the fat man in. That's fat with a PH, obviously, PHAT. But until then, we shall bid listeners adieu. If you have got anything you particularly want us to cover, if there's a team that you want us to give some love, please do tweet us at the FH Podcast, or leave us a YouTube comment, and we will do our best to cover your team, if they're in England, of course. If they're foreign, then you'll have to go through the main pod, and we'll do our best there as well. So, thank you very much for everyone for listening. Thank you, Ross, for your time as always.
No, pleasure as ever.
We'll be back with you on Sunday. Until then, whoever you follow, enjoy your football. We've been Football Hipsters. We're back. It will soon be all over your earwaves on a regular basis each week. So until Sunday, keep enjoying your football, and we will speak to you very soon.
It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent. Mark Vivian Foet, Sinclair's cross over Cunningham. Di Canio! Oh, I do not believe that. That is sensational.
Tissier. He's going for goal again. Oh! Only Matthew Le Tissier can score goals like that.
Collymore closing in.